In this video, we're going to talk about power for live events, and more specifically, power for lighting, since lighting is one of the most power-hungry aspects of our industry. We're going to be covering some high-level concepts as it relates to power, but if you want to dig deeper, you can click the link in the description for an article that we wrote, or go to avod3.com/insights. So first things first, power starts at the power distro. The power distro, or distribution box, is a simple box that takes heavy-duty power in and converts it into some outlets that you might see in your house. For our events, you'll typically see a power distro with 5 large wires coming into it, and these wires are 3 legs of 3-phase power plus a ground and a neutral. The power distro is often spec'd in terms of amperage, and this amperage is amps per leg. So with a 3-phase distro, we have a certain number of amps per leg. So for example, our distros usually are 200 amps, so we actually have a total of 600 amps available to us, 200 amps per leg. Next to rigging, power is probably one of the most important aspects of our world, because if you get power wrong, you can destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Since power is so important, when we do our tech plans, we leave 10% of headroom available to us. So for example, with our distros with 600 amps available, we leave 10%, so we spec out to 540 amps in our plans. If there's one thing you should have memorized when it comes to power, it's the magic power formula, which is amps equals watts divided by volts. In our case, our volts is almost always 120 volts, unless you're dealing with some specialty equipment, in which case you might be at 208. So now you know how much power you have available to you, and you know how much power your equipment takes. But there's one more thing you need to think about, and that's wire size. Every cable that we use to plug in equipment comes in different wire sizes, and each wire size has a different amount of amps that it can carry. In our world, we typically encounter 12 gauge and 14 gauge wire when it comes to interconnecting equipment. 12 gauge wire can carry up to 20 amps, and 14 gauge wire can carry up to 15. But if you're using anything else besides 12 or 14 gauge, you need to look up the ampacity of the wire that you're using. On top of that, when we calculate power for the show, we always plan for the worst. For instance, on a recent show, when I did my calculations, I noticed that we needed at least 120 amps per leg, but when the rig was up and running at full blast, the rig barely went above 80 amps per leg. Which actually leads me to probably the most important point, which is don't take anything for granted and don't rely on just your knowledge. You should always ask for a second opinion and run things by your teammates because they've got your back. If you want to dive deeper into this, we did write an article about this that goes into some pretty technical details. But once again, my name is Tyler Herron with Avod3. See you next time.